Dennis Allen is like, there's not a better way to say this. He's a douche. Nobody speaks down on their players more often than Dennis Allen. He's just like coming to the press conference like, yeah, you want to ask me a question? I want to trash on a player.
Bro,
you got something for me? Yeah, tell me. So anyway, look.
It's crazy. All right, we're bringing you an updated top 40 Dynasty running back rankings. We'll be going through 7 tiers, having some conversations on some key players. Let's get straight into it. Your first tier, Zach.
First tier is called HIMOTHY. All right.
Of course.
Because these 3 running backs are HIMOTHY. They are the building blocks, the young superstars that if you have on your Dynasty roster, you're feeling so hot. You're feeling like the cutest girl in school.
Super hot fire. Hey.
That's Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Breece Hall. I don't care what order you have them in. For me, I've got Bijan and Gibbs ahead of Breece Hall simply because of the 5th-year option. Simply because of the draft capital.
Sure.
They're all going to be on good offenses. I think Breece Hall is just as talented as those names, but the Jets are going to be forced to make a difficult decision on paying a running back before Bijan and Gibbs will be in that decision, if you will.
Yeah, completely agree there. I love Breece Hall, especially coming off that ACL tear last year. No one was expecting
that was
him
impressive.
To finish RB2 off that ACL tear, so that was phenomenal. All right, tier 2.
Tier 2, we've got a mix of young guys and some studs here in Christian McCaffrey. Look, let's just say this from the beginning. With these tiers, I don't care exactly where you have these players ranked. I just have them in these buckets of how I value them, right?
Sure.
So CMC is here as my RB4. If you're a competing team, there's probably not another running back you'd rather have outside of CMC to go win your league. However, he is 28 years old. He is getting up there. He's had so many touches. Ultimately, the shoe will drop like it does for every single player.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, for example, I can't go outside now and play basketball and not stretch like 30 minutes before and after without feeling sore for 3 days.
Welcome to 30.
I could do that 10 years ago. Now I can't. Right? It comes for every man. Time is never ending. We've got Jonathan Taylor here as well, Devon Achane, Travis Etienne, and Saquon Barkley. I know you're still salty that he left your New York Giants, unfortunately. Yeah. But that was cool to see on Hard Knocks. That was like really cool, that episode.
Yeah, it was a great episode, but F you, Saquon Barkley. Let's talk about Devon Achane.
Okay.
Achane, he's your biggest or one of the risers so far in this video here. Talk to us and why he rose in your rankings.
Well, it's just really coach speak. You know this, but I have always been a big Achane guy. I've really loved him coming out of Texas A&M. I remember saying, I think he'll be an outlier. Now, I've said that before and I've been wrong. Just happened to be right here with Devon Achane.
Sure.
But before I heard that news, I still had Mostert with the larger percentage of the shares in Miami. And it wasn't by much. Mm-hmm. But since hearing these reports, I have kind of put them dead even in Miami this year.
Okay.
So I've given Devon Achane 34% of the attempts, same to Raheem Mostert, but I've given a larger target share to Devon Achane. I think they'll use him out of the backfield more often than Mostert. So ultimately, just an absolute superstar. The way that we are valuing him in Dynasty right now, if you are concerned about him being injured, then you should sell him right now because there's not a better time if that's a real concern of yours.
Yeah, I mean, the value is incredible for Devon currently right now, and it might even rise. So however way you see that with Devon Achane or Achane, definitely go about it. All right, tier 3.
Yeah, I really like tier 3, honestly. Like these are guys where if you start your startup draft in a super flex and you start quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends, and then you land a couple of these names maybe down the board, that feels really good. Ken Walker, Kyron Williams, Jonathan Brooks, Josh Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, who I think's getting, it's just too much disrespect right now.
Is it?
I actually just traded for him recently. Maybe I'll send this to our editor so you guys can see the trade. I got Garrett Wilson, Josh Jacobs. It was in a deal for Justin Jefferson. And then I've also got Let James Cook.
Talk him up, baby. Come on.
I think you are notoriously a big James Cook guy. What I'll just say quickly is second half of the season, there was a change in that offense.
No question.
Second half of the season, something really clicked when Joe Brady became the offensive coordinator. And James Cook kind of just took off. I mean, he was like the guy in that backfield. I think with Stephon Diggs leaving, they're going to target him more and more than they ever have. Average 15 points per game from week 9 onward. So, yeah, I just think James is going to be like a very focal point of the offense here in year 3 for James. Year 3.
Year 3 for James. They're going to definitely have a little bit more of a spread offense is my prediction. He finished as RB12 amongst running backs this past year. And he was my guy. So I absolutely love James Cook here. Jonathan Brooks, somebody that we know, obviously this is a Dynasty video, but we know he's most likely going to miss week 3 and 4, up to week 3 and 4, potentially, according to reports. Maybe, let's say you're in week 2 and you're a Dynasty owner and Jonathan Brooks still hasn't played and that owner is panicking. That might be a good window for you to go out and acquire Jonathan Brooks right there, because he's currently in the community on Keep Trade Cut, specifically RB10. I think if you see Chuba Hubbard having a good run in the first couple weeks, maybe that Jonathan Brooks owner is going to start to maybe panic or maybe not. Sure. Maybe you have an understanding owner when it comes out to Jonathan Brooks. But I'm assuming you are trying to buy him at all costs in Dynasty right now?
If the price is right. I mean, sure. I currently have him ranked as RB11, so I would more consider him a hold. Like, my overall advice would be don't panic. You know, you probably didn't draft Jonathan Brooks expecting him to be a superstar straight away, right? If you drafted him in rookie draft. So just a friendly reminder, don't panic. Be patient. Let it work itself out. I do think he will be the running back to own second half of the season in Carolina. We know how talented he is. You know, I remember back to when we were scouting him for the first time and looking at this class. I remember writing down, it's like watching motor oil go through an engine. That's how smooth this kid is.
Come on, baby.
Don't panic. Don't panic on Jay Brooks.
Okay, all right. Take us to your tier 4 then.
Tier 4, we've got Trey Benson, who, I'll be honest, I love Trey Benson. Y'all know that. Not loving how little information we're getting. It's like, we're not even getting information that he's not doing well. We're not getting information that he's doing poor. We're just not getting much information at all. If anyone at all, and no, this is probably stupid to say, but if anyone at all works for Arizona or is a beat writer and is watching this, please, give us an update. Can you tell us anything? Because we're not hearing anything at all outside he's battling for the RB2 spot, which is not enough to determine how he's doing.
Sure. Would you say that's the same? I think that's overall from the Arizona Cardinals, because I'm not hearing much personally about Martin Harrison Jr., about Kyler Murray and how their connection is growing. You get a tweet here and there, but it's not like it's consistent.
A sleeping giant for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'd say it's a sleeping giant. I think that's a fair point, but I'm not concerned about Trey Benson. I still think here's what I'll say. Tell me a single time James Conner hasn't missed a game in his career.
There you go.
In a season. Every single season he's missed a game. And this is the first time in Arizona where if he does miss a game, there's a legit chance someone could steal his job. So I think Trey Benson could still be a second half of the, season league winner, and I'm not going to panic sell him at all.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
We've also got Rachaad White, Pacheco, Henry, and Ramondre. I don't know if I said the rest of the tier or not.
Yeah, no, you didn't. So I think my biggest one here I would love to talk about that we haven't caught up on since I've been back from holidays, Ramondre Stevenson. He gets a long-term contract extension. I think that happened like 1 or 2 days before I went on vacation. Yeah. How do you feel about Ramondre Stevenson getting a 4-year, $36 million contract? Obviously, this offense potentially getting Brandon Ayuk, maybe that opens things up here, especially with Drake May.
I doubt it. I don't think he wants to be there.
Yeah, it's tough, but I like Ramondre Stevenson. How are you feeling about him with this long-term contract extension?
So he hasn't moved in my rankings. This is exactly where he was before the extension. I don't see a reason to move him up. So, if you're a young team, let me ask young teams out there, you're rebuilding. Do you really feel like Stevenson is that much more secure than Derrick Henry? How about Pacheco or Rashad, who doesn't have a contract, or Trey, who hasn't developed a role yet? So I found it really difficult to move him any further up my rankings. It's nice to see that the Patriots believe in him that way. It's nice to see that they think he will be a integral part of their offense moving forward. I will say one of his most inefficient years last year was on one of the worst offenses in the NFL, though. So if they turn it around, will that lead to more fantasy points? I don't know, but I wouldn't say Ramondre. I'll say this. I am in a league where I feel like I have the best team, and Ramondre is my RB2, and I don't feel good about it. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
I think he's a fine RB2, but I'm not thrilled. I'm not holy moly, this could be really fun. It's he can get the job done. It's the Toyota. It's the 09 Corolla. We can make it work. I'm not gonna like driving it, but I can make it work.
At least you had a car, right? Look,
exactly.
With Ramondre Stevenson, for me, I can understand, the conversation around, Rachaad White, Pacheco, Derrick Henry, and I think there's a lot of recency bias, like what you did mention. one of the most inefficient offenses, Ramondre Stevenson going in and out of games, dealing with a couple of injuries there. But the expectation that this offense is going to change. And if that does happen and Ramondre Stevenson finishes as a top 12 to 15 running back, currently right now in Keep Trade Cut RB 18, if he beats that ADP,
right,
if he beats that return, I think we can easily see him rise above the likes of Derrick Henry, who's going.
I don't see it. I don't like maybe Henry here. I personally could be completely wrong. But if he's top 12, like as an older running back on an offense that might not even be good, I think he's very reasonable.
I think
priced. I don't think next year he's like the RB12 with all those running backs coming in.
A lot of that depends on the running backs coming in, like you just mentioned, and what's the contract going to look like for Rachaad White and Isaiah Pacheco, or are they even on this team? On the same team next year. I think Pacheco's on his 4th year.
Here's what we know. Right now, the Patriots are a terrible offense. So we're also projecting that they will be better. There's also a chance they are just as bad, right?
Sure. Look,
so just throwing that out there. As well.
Makes sense. All right, take us to your tier 5 then.
All right, tier 5. We got DeAndre Swift, Joe Moneybag Mixon, Alvin Kamara, David Montgomery, Zamir White, and Javonte Williams. A tier I like. I really like this. Like, these are guys who, again, if you go 0 RB to start your dynasty drafts and these guys end up as your RB3 or so on your team, you should feel pretty good about the upside they carry.
Yeah, and, I do like all these guys. One guy I do want to talk about that I don't think is getting enough love, personally. I think it's DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift, not getting the circulation in the community right now. He is on one of the most exciting offenses going into the 2024 season. And if he does remotely get those pass catching opportunities that we hope and expect in the backfield in this Bears offense, maybe that is something that we can see rising. I mean, you also have to remember he gets a deal done as well with the Chicago Bears. I know Khalil Herbert is behind him and big old Rashawn Johnson, but DeAndre Swift, I can see his value rising going into the 2025 season, depending on these running backs that's going to be coming in the rookie class here. But I just want to show some love to DeAndre Swift because I think he's being very disrespected in the community personally. Okay. But there's some hope.
I personally think he's valued right where.
Look, the value is there. But
I don't really see him as like a true league winner. I think he's a valuable RB2 in an offense that we're projecting to be good. But I personally believe that Herbert will still be involved. I think Rashawn Johnson will still be involved. And to be honest, out of those 3 names, he makes the least sense to put in there on the goal line. We've never seen DeAndre Swift be a goal line running back. No. We've never seen him be dominant in that area.
Opportunities.
So, pass catching opportunities, but are you going to, so let me tell you, you get to target Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, or DeAndre Swift. I think DeAndre Swift's probably your 4th preference there, So, I don't know, like personally, I think he's properly valued is what I'm saying. Sure.
That makes sense. Anyone else in this tier you personally want to hit on here? I know Zamir White is definitely raising some eyebrows in the community right now, but I think we both see that a little bit differently. Currently valued as RB22 on Keep Trade Cut.
Yeah, I'll talk about the last 2 in the tier, Zamir White and Javonte Williams. I really like owning these players right now. With Zamir White, he will be the clear, unquestioned workhorse in an offense that should be run focused under Antonio Pierce.
Right.
4 games last year where he started for this team, he averaged over 23 touches per game.
Oh boy.
Now, it's unrealistic to expect that for an entire season, but I've currently, my projections have given him around 18.5 touches per game. I think this team will be very run focused. If you look at splits when they had Josh McDaniels as the head coach and Antonio Pierce, they were a much more run-focused team under Antonio Pierce. Zamir White was very good in his opportunities, by the way, right, when he was a starter. So I think there's enough reason to be hopeful about this player that at one point was like the number 1 recruit in the entire nation for Georgia. As far as Javonte Williams goes, we're a year removed from the ACO right now. And I think I haven't given Javonte enough credit. Like, we keep talking about how, you got to wait a year for the ACL to really expect anything from a running back. Breece Hall was the exception. And here we are, not giving Javonte Williams his due. And I think, all reports out of the camp are really good. The reports are that he is thinner. He is quicker. He looks great. Sean Payton's actually speaking positively on a name that he didn't bring in. That's rare to see. So I think Javonte will be the guy. We know how good he was out of North Carolina. And ultimately, I think he's a very, very, if you're a competing team and you don't have like an RB3 you trust, I'd be willing to send like a late second for Javonte right now.
Yeah, and I think that can definitely another offense that comes into projection with a new quarterback, a new offensive coordinator, all these. That was a bad offense last year. I think it's most likely going to be a bad offense again, or maybe a mediocre middle of the pack type of offense.
Last thing I'll say though, by the way, is nobody targets running backs more than Sean Payton. You know, we saw that throughout all of New Orleans when he was there with Alvin Kamara, right, with Mark Ingram.
Yeah.
But last year, nobody targeted the running back position more than Sean Payton. They had 156 targets to running backs. So there is, like, if the offense is good, that's what I'm saying. Like, if the offense is good, like, we know he's going to get targets. Can he get touchdowns? So
hopefully. I mean, hopefully he can get. Well, actually, now thinking about it, Aldrich estimate, I feel like Javonte Williams will be the pass catching guy, according to what you're saying. They're targeting the running back the most last year. They bringing a big body running back. Yeah, they bring a big body running back here. It's going to be interesting going into this year. All right, tier 6.
Yeah, I like tier 6. It's mostly handcuffs and a couple backfields that are confusing. So we've got Warren and Najee. You know, I don't see the upside for these guys, but I see the safety. Again, like this is the 09 Corolla, all right? This is an 09. This is like the 01 Corolla. This is the 2001 Toyota Corolla, 270,000 miles on her.
That's a nice body.
She'll keep going. Old reliable, all right? She takes me from A to B. We also got Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard. You and I have been on the same page this entire offseason. We've been saying we believe this will be a split backfield down the middle.
Yeah.
I don't know why when that report came out this last couple of weeks, people were surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
I don't know what people expected.
Co-starters, no, of course.
But they are going to share the backfield, and that offense could legit be very good. Like, we're talking about offenses that could be better. There's every reason Tennessee's offense could be way, way better. Blake Corum, Marshawn Lloyd, and Brian Robinson. As far as Blake Corum, I'll just say, I think he's my favorite handcuff in all of Dynasty football right now. Just point blank period. I love Kyron Williams, but we've already seen him in a lead role miss significant time. If that happens again, why couldn't Blake Corum take a role that is, like, I know people hate to hear that, but, like, why couldn't Sean McVay can turn anyone into a fantasy superstar? He's the king of finding values and extracting the most out of his players. So I think Blake Corum, like, if Kyron goes down, he has a serious injury, that guy's going to win you your league.
Yeah, no question. I mean, in a dynasty perspective, if you can get your hands on Blake Corum, if you already have Kyron Williams, I think it's a must. It's kind of like back in the day with, you know, Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison. You just knew that he was going to miss time or 1 or 2 games, and Alexander Madison was going to come in, get you 10 to 15 points. Now here, the ceiling is higher with Blake Corum, especially with the history of his collegiate career. So that's actually more exciting and more of an emphasis to potentially own him and go out and try to trade for him if you do have Kyron Williams. I would also say the same thing with Marshawn Lloyd in my perspective. I love what he did coming out of UNC. USC, excuse me. And look, he's more of a pass catching back, which is exciting. And we see Matt LaFleur not necessarily ever giving more than 60-65% to even Aaron Jones. And now Marshawn Lloyd comes in here with Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs most likely leading this team in the goal line areas, but in the pass catching opportunities, Marshawn Lloyd could be the guy on third down opportunities. So I feel the same way with Marshawn Lloyd.
Right now, the reports aren't that glowing.
No, it's not. Especially with the Coach Speak Index, he was like, well, Marshawn Lloyd has a lot to work on. It's like,
they're saying A.J. Dillon's a clear RB2 right now.
I understand.
They are talking about his his fumble concerns. That's concerning to me because he was so bad with fumbles in college. Yeah. I really did not want to hear that. But y'all know we love Lloyd here. For sure.
We love Lloyd.
He's got a hill to climb.
And they keep saying that with AJ Dillon every single year, and it just never happened. So I'm excited to see what happens in that backfield here. All right, the last tier of the day, tier 7.
Yeah, just a bunch of guys that fill your roster is what I would say, with some upside, right? Like, the upside names here would be your Jalen Wrights, your Charbonnets, your Kendre Millers, right? Your Chase Browns, you could say. Your old reliable vets that you think could just get you some points. Aaron Jones, Chubb, Singletary, Eckler, Moss, Connor. So it's just kind of like this melting pot of running backs that have different risks, different upsides, but, you know, still carry some value. I think I'd like to talk about Nick Chubb specifically.
Okay.
I think you and I are on the same page, but, like, I don't mind him as a buy in Dynasty, I'll say. Like, if you can spend a 3rd round pick on Nick Chubb, I think I'd be willing to do that. Because they could have cut Nick Chubb. They could have moved on from him. And while I don't expect much this year, I'm just thinking like next year. If Nick Chubb is still on this team next year, and he's a year removed from this injury,
Sure.
and you spend a 3rd on him, I don't know. I think I'd be willing to do that, but just trying to think beyond just right now, because right now we don't have high expectations.
What's really difficult about that for me is specifically going into next year is the class. Why wouldn't they just draft another round? Thank you so much, Nick Chubb. We wanted to get you healthy, come back. Yeah. And if you can be reliable for us now, sure, maybe you can get into maybe a handful, 6, 7, 8 games in the second half of the season. But the 25 class is too strong. And I think Nick Chubb, unfortunately, is done in the sense of being the guy that we used to know and love.
Look, I think that's a fair concern. I'm definitely not willing to send a 2nd. But I think the third is like that sweep.
Yeah, the third is intriguing. No question here. Yeah. One guy I do want to hit on, not sure if he spoke, I guess you spoke to the community while I was away, with Kendre Miller. One of the biggest fallers so far on Keep Trade Cut. RB 42 currently. If I'm not mistaken, at some point in time early in this offseason, he was as high as like RB 25. He nearly falls 20 plus spots down, especially with all the reports coming out with Kamara. Talk to us about Kendre.
Look, as of right now, I have to say it's a miss on Kendre. As of right now, what I will say is, ignorantly, I'm still buying him for a 3rd. Earlier in the offseason, you couldn't get him for a 3rd. You'd have to pay at least a 2nd.
Yeah.
I really do believe he would have extended his role if the offseason went in a way where he didn't re-injure himself. But unfortunately, he did. Not something he can control. There's a lot of people out there, Badaki, who are saying, well, the Saints are going to cut Kendre Miller. He's not going to make the team. Logistically, why does that make sense?
Yeah, logistically, it doesn't
Why
make
do
sense.
they cut a contract that is so cheap when they have very little depth in their running back room? That makes absolutely no sense to me. So there's still a very realistic possibility if Kendre Miller can stay healthy, and right now he hasn't been able to, but Jamal Williams is not good. He's just a plotter. We know that by now.
Yeah.
If they really need some juice, I think there's a point in this season where we could see Kendre. Remember, guys, last year he started for this team, and he looked so freaking good.
Yeah,
Remember one of the last games of the year?
Yeah, week 18.
Yeah. He started for this team, scored a touchdown, looked really good. It was like, okay, like this is a sign of things to come. And the last thing I'll say on Kendre is Dennis Allen is like, there's not a better way to say this. He's a douche, like, quite frankly. Like, this dude, nobody speaks down on their players more often than Dennis Allen. He's just like, yeah, I'd like to tear apart my players today. He's just like coming to the press conference like, yeah, you want to ask me a question? I want to trash on a player. You got something for me? Yeah, tell me. So anyway, look.
It's crazy.
I'm buying Kendre for a 3rd round pick if he's going for a 3rd round pick. And I just think he's a very talented player. He's still very young, and I liked his profile coming out.
Yeah, look, I think it's dead, guys. I think it's over for Kendre. Sure. I don't want him. If I have him, I'm actually happy to sell him.
That's perfect, because that's the mindset I want people to have right now in Dynasty if I'm buying him. So and I don't feel like you have to spend much to pay for him anyway. Yeah. So I get what you're saying.
And if you bought him for a 2nd, just hold him. That's what I would say. That is the biggest and best advice. If you bought Kendre Miller before his value plummeted, it is best to hold and not sell for a 3rd. Just see what happens this year, or maybe even next year. Maybe they don't draft a running back and they say, well, we believe in Kendre, and they get rid of Alvin Kamara. Revitalization for Kendre Miller.
Dennis Allen. True. How the hell is Dennis Allen a head coach? Dennis Allen has like never been a successful head coach, and he's had so many opportunities.
They love him over there,
that's
clearly.
What they need to get rid of. It makes no sense. Yeah. How is he a head coach? I don't get it. Anyway. Obviously, I have some personal bias against him.
I think that's about it. I think the only other riser in this tier is probably Chase Brown. We don't have to really talk about him in nauseum.
Yeah.
But he is somebody rising, especially with the reports coming out of camp, excuse me.
Yeah, I think he's a very replaceable player ultimately, which is why I can't like bump him up in like tier 5 with those other names I think are more talented. But my concern is still like, can he pass protect? Because all this talk in camp, when you're not concerned about your quarterback getting injured, it doesn't matter. Like, if he can pass protect, he will be a huge value this year. If he can't, it genuinely will not matter every report that's come out. So we got to wait and see what the team thinks when the pads are on, when you got to protect Joe Burrow, the guy who's their franchise quarterback who's been dealing with injuries. So
yeah.
I think it will be very, very present in their mind when they think about this backfield.
Completely agree. Love it. Love the tiers, brother.
Yeah, that was fun. All right. Well, appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Hey, if you want to support the show, you can become a yearly Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND on the Flock Fantasy website. You get access to all the premium tools. You'll be able to get a team review for us where we look at all the trade options for your team, what direction you should go, and you also get access to all the premium tools, the rankings, everything over there on the website. So consider becoming a yearly Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND. Outside of that, all love. We'll see you soon. We appreciate you. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.